that is the deepest rooted society event of shame that the Japanese have, is that point of losing Iwo Jima for the collapse of the country, and the loss of World War II was pointed to that battle and that series of battles and fights over that island specifically. And those ships were sunk underwater, and now there's a massive earthquake that raised that island at least 30 to 40 feet on the shores to bring those ships above water again. How the society shifted completely because of that battle into what Japan is today versus what it was as a might with the emperor in charge. That is back for old dark secrets to reemerge again. And it is very, very significant in Japan right now, what's going on with this. A new surveillance bill will allow Australia to spy on their citizens' internet activity. This bill gives the Australian government the right to disrupt private citizens' computers, hack their online accounts, and modify or delete data. Government overreach and corporate tracking are at the top of the reasons why VPNs are becoming more and more popular. You can head over to virtualshield.com, and in the download tab, I'm going to choose Firefox and click Install Now to add the Virtual Shield add-on. It's just that easy. And get started with your free 30-day trial. Install it, click Connect. You'll see the shield turn from red to green, and you'll see how from my initial service provider I was able to even change my IP. Virtual Shield Network protected. If you want to stay anonymous online, you'll love Virtual Shield. This Black Friday, you can try Virtual Shield for 30 days. Free, plus 50% off for life. If you hurry, go to virtualshield.com/adapt2030 or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video.
Another edition of Tradcat Night, special guest, exclusive podcast right here on the tradcatnight.org website. In the studio, David DuByne from Adapt 2030. And we're going to be jumping through all the latest news and perspectives and analysis and commentaries on, the economics, geopolitics of things, obviously earth changes. Having said that, folks, get on over to Adapt 2030. David DuByne joining us. And this will probably be our last program before sometime in December, probably at some point before Christmas, because I know David's got a lot going on. And, this is the hardest time to obviously schedule, a lot of family getting together and just a lot of holidays. And it's good times, man. It's great to get there with family. And we were just briefly talking off air with David about, just how a lot more family members are now getting on board. I mean, I think we're all reading the same headlines, and people at least are scratching their heads, David, in regards to what's happening. And right off of the bat, you have a video, Earth and Transition, and we're beginning to just continually see some crazy Earth changes happening all across the board. Anything stand out to you? And thank you so much for joining the show again.
Yeah, appreciate it. We always have a good row about, some information exchange here. So for me coming on too, you talk to an enormous amount of people, and, thanks for connecting Pinball Preparedness. We did a great interview together, which I posted all 3 segments up on my YouTube channel. It was an hour-and-a-half conversation about what you might see in terms of supply chain shortages, and if people come to your properties, like how to possibly bring them in by figuring out what kind of skill sets they have, and a little bit about protection and getting communities together. So it was a really all-encompassing. Nothing in a fear factor. It was all completely solution-based talk about, okay, well, this is what's happening, and then, okay, what can we do about it? Okay, next thing's happening, then what can we do about it? So we went through about, I would say, 10 to 12 really front-of-the-page news headline kind of things that we're seeing, and putting a little timeline together with it on when you can expect some of these things to roll out. So you talk to an enormous amount of people, too, and the more information you absorb, the more dots you can connect. So for me to come on here and also have some conversations with you about how's the world moving at the moment. Because it seems to be, I'll put my one thing here. I was invited to speak at a dairy conference since the last time we spoke. And I went up there and I did my presentation. And it was all about the Earth's magnetic field being affected by what's coming up. September of 2022, the Earth's going to be 100% locked in this new magnetic field, which is going to cause an enormous amount of earth cracks and different crustal anomalies to happen. And the projections that I was going through, the solar diagrams, I was just using Solar System Scope. I wasn't using JPL or Universal Sandbox. Just real simple, because the graphics are pretty tight in the solar system scope to really, for somebody for the first time to see the info, you want it to be legible and like, okay, that's Jupiter, okay, that's Saturn, quite easy to see versus a dot like the JPL models. So anyway, I was going through, spinning it around in time, and the Earth is going to swing around as we come into our winter here. Q1 of 2022, we're going to really start to feel the effects of the second magnetic field, which in turn will have an effect on our atmosphere, amplifying everything. However many times that would be, uncertain now. But coming up into September, you're going to start to see an enormous amount of Earth fissures and sinkholes. And then here today, just unbeknownst to me, I was perusing the news before I talked to you. Out of the South China Morning Post, here's one. Sinkholes form as Dead Sea recedes. Okay, here's the thing. They're having so many thousands and thousands and thousands of sinkholes across that region of the Dead Sea that people are noticing it, and now they need to come out with an explanation as to why it's happening. This would be an area on my top 10 list to look for Earth changes and crustal anomalies, because you can't tell me this many thousands and thousands of sinkholes have just formed in the last 6 months or less. But then they try to say, well, it's been going on for decades. Well, okay. Well, then why are you bringing it to our attention now and pointing to how many thousands of them there are? And then Croatia is the same way. So you can find a couple areas, and then you look down in Arizona, there's been cracks. Mexico, there's cracks. You can find a lot of these spots forming with Earth crustal deformation. The long story of that is when I was talking to the dairy guys and girls, showing them the solar geometry or solar dynamics there and where the planets would be, and then wham, we're going to get smacked with a big field interlocking coming up the beginning of next year, and then September in earnest, we're going to see an uptick of something magnitudes above what you could possibly expect in extremes in the weather. So with that correlation, how much more effect from government's going to come to lock citizens down, control them more, to have even more control over the food delivery system as we get locked in the second magnetic field, when next year's harvests are going to be more pitiful than this year.
Now, do you find it coincidence? Of course, so we try to cover some predictive programming pieces, and I want to get a follow-up. But in regards to the sinkholes, that show La Brea, do you see that on NBC, the big sinkhole that open up in Los Angeles? I found that a little coincidental that they're talking about, massive sinkholes opening up in Los Angeles. This show just started about a month ago. Not sure if you caught any of it. I've actually missed like the last 3 weeks. I've been just too busy, but
it's a television program.
Yeah, La Brea. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. It's on NBC, man. It's like the most popular show right now. They're saying, how they do like the ratings or whatever. Oh, literally a sinkhole opens up, tar pits, La Brea tar pits or something like that, and all these people get sucked into like a parallel universe, and they're trying to like come back or whatnot. I mean, that's a whole other kind of side topic to the whole notion of like they're showing this stuff right in front of our faces, because I think they know that it's going to be more common moving forward into 2022.
So here's what's conjectured to happen. When the second magnetic field forms out into true intensity strength of 2023 and 24, when it reaches its apex of strength of field in conjunction with strength of field on the sun and the Earth directly in the center of those two fields, it is very possible that we and you and I are going to start to see into what we would consider a parallel universe, because the resonance field around us will change with the way we're perceiving it due to enhanced, whatever that is, electromagnetic effects in our brain, allowing us to get to a higher vibration level, to see different frequencies of light and to hear different audible frequencies as well. It's almost as if you're tearing through into a parallel universe. If you're stuck there and you're seeing all kind of things pop out of the woodwork that would scare you, you wouldn't want to be in that universe.
Yeah.
So this parallel universe is very much what is thought it might happen when these two parallel magnetic fields form circa 2023 and 4. It's really going to ignite the human perception field into a super overdrive. And, then predictive programming, is that what all these superhero movies are about in the last few years? Because the magnetic field of our hemispheres of our brain is not going to be locked in like it was. It's going to be able to expand. And when this does, the expansion of possibilities of human manifestation, visual spectrum, audio spectrum, sixth sense abilities, innate abilities to sense through on a empathy plane versus using words and images and things. This is all expected to come to, incredible heights of full-on civilization changing. Like, you'll be able to see parts of reality ripped away in a different parallel universe. That's why that's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
2023 and 4, get ready for it.
Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. I remember it calls back to mind a talk that I listened to with Father Malachi Martin. As you know, he used to do the Coast to Coast show. And then when talking about sort of like aliens or like the CERN topic, even maybe you can pick up what the latest is with CERN, because I think it's at least worthy to bring that into the conversation. Father Malachi Martin called it the unveiling, where you would be able to see things that you wouldn't normally see. And he said if you could see what was actually in the heavens, according from the Christian perspective, you see an awful lot of nefarious entities type of thing. So I think that also ties in with the Catholic prophecy of 3 days of darkness, where basically it's divulge every devil is let loose, and if you're not inside, basically you're a goner type of thing. So 2023 is the date that you've got for that, huh? For what we would call on our side probably like the unveiling or something similar. We would use some terms like that. But man, I've been saying this now for years, David. This is such a like so Twilight Zone-ish now. Like if we were talking about this maybe like 10 years or so ago, I mean, I think both of us would probably get laughed off the airways. But now it's like, I think it's just becoming more common talk. You know what I mean? To where you can have like a serious discussion about this, especially on the Catholic side of things. I know my people, they're very well informed, and they'll look into something before just outrightly dismissing it. So in this particular area where you might originally get like an eyebrow raise or two due to CERN, due to recent uptick and rise in demonic activity due to all this predictive program, it's a serious discussion. And my goodness, I wouldn't want to. I mean, I couldn't imagine looking up into the heavens and seeing an unparalleled amount of demonic entities or something. I don't know. Your thoughts, David. And by the way, if you could, CERN, any update what's happening there?
No, I don't have any updates on CERN. I followed it for a little while, and I understand they get these micro portals that might set for a millionth of a second or something. But see, that's where they try to trick everybody, is whatever they're doing there, the experimentation, okay, we know what's going on. It's using an enormous amount of power. And here's the thing, the world's squibbling about climate change, and you got to reduce, and you can only have a little hamster on a wheel in your house to produce power, but they're using CERN running off how many terawatts of power to get that thing to fire up to the speeds that they need it. And, it's been talked about, and even in their release papers and press releases and all this research that they put online publicly, they talk about being able to open black holes for a millionth of a second or something. And they publicly claim this. All right, we created black holes. Well, they had that entity take physical form inside the chamber there. Luckily, it was closed, but they have a little entity living in there that's physical form. And some sort of little tiny statue thing appeared as well. Okay, but that's in a millionth of a second. That's what we perceive time as, in a millionth of a second. But other dimensionalities, a million years, time doesn't exist. So when we try to quantify it in a millionth of a second, well, for other realms, that doesn't even exist. That's an open portal probably for infinity. We might think it might have closed, but on something else's non-time world or non-time existence, that open portal is open. Anything could have come through. Like a millionth of a second for us could have been multi-hours in another dimensional realm where, hey, they have 4 hours to cross through or something. We're so far outside the bounds here. If you want to go back into Twilight Zone, what would come through, and could it take physical form and hold physical form in our third dimensional reality, coming from a different dimensional space? It's whatever it is. Could it hold state here? Because our frequency field's quite different than the ethereal. And I know there's no such thing as matter. It's an illusion that it is all vibrating energy, and the molecules and atoms stringing things together to give the physical appearance of something hard in front of you, like your desk or a computer. But it's not. It's energy. And if you can look at it in just an energy field of things connected, then could another energetic body or an energetic being hold state inside our denser third dimensional medium? Even air, it's oxygen and all these different trace gases and everything. And that air might appear clear to you where you can see 30 miles to the horizon, but you're looking through 30 miles of an energy field. Those are all atoms and molecules connected together, from the water vapor to the hydrogen, the nitrous oxide, and all these different compounds that are gaseous. Yet they are energy. They are molecules and atoms in a bound state of energy. So you're looking through a 30-mile thick field of energy, And everything's connected. So even you and I, this distance over this, we're still connected at some point through that same energy field. Now, so the whole question is, can something hold state in it here that comes from a different dimension? Whether it's a millionth of a second they have to transit through, or whether it's an infinite amount of time in their dimensionality to transit through. Are we being invaded from a different dimension? And because you talked about things in the heavens, and if you take the literal description from the Bible of what archangels are looking like, they're nothing like the pretty little winged things that is the traditional thought of what an angel is. They are fierce, ferocious, sword-slaying, vengeance of God beings that take on that role. What we've been traditionally fed is what angels are with white wings compared to what a true archangel looks like, frightening to say the least, in a good way.
Now, speaking about frightening, at least to some of the latest Earth changes, of course, have been happening. More, would you say what we can characterize this last month has been, what has stood out, I mean, has been more like the volcanic activity? There is not a day that doesn't go by. It doesn't seem like we're talking about either La Palma or Mount Etna or Kilauea or that one out in Japan now, that new one that popped off. I think it's called ASO or whatever. Volcanic activity. Highly concerned here. And I know those are one of your latest videos from the last day. Volcanic ash risks to the global supply chain. And I think you did a talk with someone on this. Maybe you can kind of give us some points that you were giving to us. And I don't know if this ties in. Maybe we could tie in a little prepping right now in regards to how to protect our food. I mean, is it even going to be safe to be growing gardens outside if you're in an area where perhaps ash might fall? And I'm speaking here specifically here, of course, in North America at Yellowstone. I don't know if you think Yellowstone's going to pop or not, but I know Mary Greeley's been talking about it. Other my guests, Marshall Masters, and so on and so forth. But volcanic concern moving forward, 2022.
Well, the volcano on Mount Aso on Iwo Jima is the event you're referencing. Did you see that all those World War II ships surfaced again after that eruption?
Yeah, and the first person I saw it from was from you. So, yeah, I went to your website and I saw that, yeah.
Well, let me explain to that for a second. Now, this goes so deep into Japanese lore and mythology and legend and belief. Now, Iwo Jima was the key battle that the Japanese lost that foothold in the Pacific, literally to protect the mainland there. Japan, with the whole losing face, which is an Asian thing anyway, but the Japanese take it to like the uber level of reputation and reputation being destroyed. And you're so disgraced in society again that you lost such face and reputation that you have kind of the Harry Carey thing. All right. So there's a huge amount of loss of face to the point where it was like a full country in massive depression. And I mean, mentally depression and also economic, but in terms of just like soul-bending darkness of depression after they lost the Second World War and were forced to surrender. So the whole scarring of the society in terms of the reputation being lost, and the emperor was removed and the mandate from heaven was taken. So their society entered an entirely different shift at that point. Like Iwo Jima was the reflection point of when the gods took away the right for the ruler to be over them. And they realized there was a shift of an age that happened because nothing's replaced that divine entity known as the emperor at that time, given the right by heaven to rule over the masses and the people. That all ended. And they trigger it and point it right down to Iwo Jima. So then losing the war after that and losing that significant battle there that they'd hoped that they were going to be able to keep the Americans from capturing that island, building different airstrips, and then attacking the mainland. So that is the deepest rooted society event of shame that the Japanese have, is that point of losing Iwo Jima for the collapse of the country, and the loss of World War II was pointed to that battle and that series of battles and fights over that island specifically. And those ships were sunk underwater, and now there's a massive earthquake that raised that island at least 30 to 40 feet on the shores to bring those ships above water again. So that old psychological scarring that ripped that country apart in the 1940s and 50s was kind of bandaged over and the skin healed over it, but now it's ripped open into an open wound again. For them to look at that and see that battle damage, how the society shifted completely because of that battle into what Japan is today versus what it was as a might with the emperor in charge. That is back for old dark secrets to reemerge again. And it is very, very significant in Japan right now, what's going on with this. It could have been the volcano eruption, but those ships showing themselves again, it is such a significant thing that you talk about biblical prophecy. It would be as if something happened on that level where it was a sign in the sky so clear for everybody that believes in any types of prophecy, Catholic prophecy, whatever it would be, that it would be a sign in the sky that could not be denied. It would be so clean that it starts again right now. And they are seeing that because of the raising of the ships out of the waters on Iwo Jima shores.